Hi, I'm Mark Loftus, Senior Editor of Post Magazine, and I'm here in Las Vegas for NAB 2015. And I'm joined at the Post booth, once again this year, with Terrence Curran from AlphaDogs in Burbank. Terry, thanks for joining us again this year.
It's good to be here again.
Excellent. NAB, again, you guys did a editor's lounge leading up to the show, kind of get a feel for what to look out for, get some feedback from other people that may be attending. What are you hearing from what went on at the event to the reality of what's being shown here at NAB?
Well, that's a good question. This is the 12th year of our pre-NAB Editors Lounge panel, and traditionally we end up talking a lot about what we think is going to happen, what's going to come up, and we kind of get into the technical engineering weeds a lot. And this year, none of that happened. It went a totally different direction. One thing that's changed is that so much is released on the internet before you get to NAB. I mean, there's really not that many surprises once you get.
So you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be seeing even before you get here.
Yeah, and this is not an exciting year overall at NAB. It's not really anything new and exciting. But what was interesting is that every year that we do the Editors Lounge panel, we've been doing this thing by a show of hands to the audience. How many people are using Final Cut? How many people are using Premiere? How many are using Avid, etc. And 3 years ago, I tried to get a Premiere Pro editor, a professional Premiere Pro editor in our industry out in Hollywood to be on a panel. Couldn't find one. Reached out to the PR people at Adobe. They couldn't find one. It was like that's the way it was. And when we did the show of hands, we'd kind of throw out Premiere Pro as whatever. Every once in a while, there might be one person who'd raise a hand. Okay. Last year, I think it was maybe one or two people raised their hand. This year, we did Final Cut 7, and surprisingly, now there's finally less hands. I think it was maybe 6 hands went up. Avid, of course, there's a bunch of hands. Final Cut 10, still only 2 hands, and Philip Hodges, and we don't count him because he's not a professional editor. And then Adobe Premiere, there was like 15 hands went up, and this is in 1 year.
So they really made inroads in that period of time.
Major league. Everybody was stunned. I mean, on the panel was stunned. And 2 of the other editors on the panel actually said they would prefer to edit in Premiere Pro. So it was a shocking change from a year ago.
Interesting. What do you attribute that to? Just the fact that they're embracing more professional workflow, into their technology?
Well, I mean, I know that Adobe has made a concerted effort because, they've approached us even over the years, the last several years. When Final Cut 10 came out, and there's a pretty strong resistance to completely change how you work to go to Final Cut 10. So a lot of those people, instead of going to Avid, went to Premiere Pro because that's more like what they were used to. I think the tight integration of the whole suite, where you can have your graphics and you can go to color correction and etc. All of that is there also. So they've focused on this professional market. They're not focused on selling iPhones.
Gotcha. The technology that you see here, does it immediately impact AlphaDogs workflow, or is this stuff you're looking at down the road? You're primarily Avid based?
No, we're whatever based because we're primarily finishing, and so it depends on what our client's offline on. That affects where we go in the finishing route. We've been moving a lot more towards Resolve because this way it doesn't matter whether they've, if they've offline in Premiere or Final Cut or Avid, it doesn't matter. You can still go to Resolve. And since Blackmagic is continuing to improve the editing capabilities of Resolve, it's going to become the universal finishing tool at some point because you won't have to round trip. You go to there, you can do whatever you need to do, titling, whatnot, and then go out of there, and then that's it. But because currently most solutions involve going back to the NLE afterwards. So whenever you're round tripping, there's stuff that you have to double check, or there's things you might have to fix or noodle and whatnot. If you just go to Resolve and that's the end, it's going to be a great workflow. So we were kind of focusing on that. As far as the show, they're still trying to foist the 4K scam down on all of us. It's just, again, something that people can't really see at home because of the size of the television and home viewing. You don't see the difference in 4K.
But there is a lot of 4K, and there's even 8K technology demonstrations here. So are we going to blow past 4K the same way we blew past 2K in 2 years?
Oh, no, because they want to sell you on all this crap. This is the whole point of it, is that, okay, you bought all your HD stuff, we need to sell more, so now buy this 4K stuff. And they know full well in 3 years they'll be trying to sell us the 8K stuff, right? That's all well and good if you're just talking about a television, but for a facility like mine, you're talking, scopes at $17,000. The 4K reference monitors, you're up into, above $30,000 a piece. You've got to have 4 times the bandwidth and 4 times the storage, et cetera, et cetera. When you start adding up the money that would be spent to really truly move to the 4K world, and not just us, I mean, basically everybody, and then all of, your broadcasters, et cetera, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for something that nobody can see at home.
If you were to have to pick a technology introduction or some news that you've seen here, is there anything that comes to mind, 1 or 2 things?
The quick 2 things is, I mentioned last year about the Dolby Vision. This year they're actually showing it with some Vizio monitors, streaming over Vudu, Warner Brothers movies, in HDR, and that's the high dynamic range. If you haven't seen the high dynamic range, you have to see it. It is, it's just amazing. It really makes the image pop. The other thing I thought is interesting at this show is the prevalence of drones, let's say, or the explosion of drones. Last year there was one section with, I don't know, maybe 8, 10 drone companies. This year every hall has a bunch of drones. I didn't know there's so many companies doing that, Yeah.
Well, Terry, we want to thank you for coming by Post TV again, giving us your input on what you've seen, and hopefully we can catch up again next year.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks again.